Greetings, this is July 20th in the early hours of the morning. We're looking at a screen from the Fire Information for Resource Management System through NASA. The link is below. This is Oliver earlier in the day, I believe after 4 p.m. and fire broke out. It headed in a north and northeasterly direction. We'll take a more detailed look at that, but first I just want to zoom around the province and look at the most recent MODIS update. Came in about 12:30 a.m. and just see some areas of concern and where fire growth may be heading. We're looking at the Flat Lake fire. This is west of Highway 97, west of Green Lake. It looks like the southern flank may be holding in position north of Cunningham Lake. Likewise, on the eastern flank, it's right up against that diagonal infrastructure line running in the center of the screen. I'm not seeing it jump over that line. Looking at the western flank, there is movement westwards, and we'll roll into today's, and there it is. It's coming south of Gustafson Lake, several kilometers south, but it has made movement to the west. Looking at the northern flank up at the top right portion of the screen, not a lot of change there. It seems to be remaining within a forested block. We're zooming out now. We can see the Flat Lake fire on the left-hand portion of the screen, and then to the southeast of that is the Young Lake fire, and north is Canham. Canham appears to be holding in place on this recent MODIS update, but let's zoom into Young Lake. I do have some concerns there over the movement in the last few days. We're looking 2 days ago. It's on the southeast side of the lake. Then yesterday there was expansion northwards and northeastwards, filling in a few of those forested fuel areas. Now, today, there is significant movement up the Bonaparte towards the Great Timber Plateau, and we see a lot of these diagonal control signatures, which may be indicating elimination of fuel behind this perimeter line. We're looking north now over the plateau to Sheridan and Bridge Lake, and so I'm looking at the vegetation and the terrain. It's open area. There's a chance for wind to pick up some embers and ash. So looking at Windy, it's moving from the south at 12 kilometers an hour. And if we jump to the forecast, we're looking at potential wind gusts up to 40 kilometers an hour midday up to 5 p.m. tomorrow, coming from the south, then cooling in the evening, shifting more from the west and potentially even from the northwest as these winds vary in the evening. Then the next day, back up to gusts from the south over 40 kilometers an hour. I'm also seeing potential for a wind shift on Wednesday. That's around 8 p.m. The wind could turn and start coming from the northwest with significant gusts. We're back looking at the infrared that was picked up today, 12:30 a.m. on the MODIS system. This is Young Lake, and what concerns me the most is the terrain, how it gets up into the higher altitudes and the ground flattens out and has a potential for wind to travel quite quickly. So if you're in the area north of this fire situation, check with BC Wildfire and check your access routes, check with DriveBC. We've moved to an area east of Cache Creek. This is south of Highway 1, south of Savona, and not seeing a lot of increase in the area covered by the infrared in this MODIS update, pretty much in position in those forested blocks, but definitely high activity in this region. We're jumping south now to look at the fire at Lytton. We can see the one at the bottom of the screen. That's at adjacent to Keefers. That may have movement in an easterly or northeasterly direction, very slightly. It's hard to determine without zooming in, but we're taking a look north at the fire at Lytton as it has moved eastward on both sides of the Thompson River up to the bend in the river. Now we're rolling into today's infrared, and we can see definite movement eastward up the other mountainside. It's over the bend in the river, so there has been expansion there. Likewise, at the fire further south, there has been movement on those southwest winds, and it's moved eastward and slightly northeast. We've zoomed into the bend at the Thompson River. North is Spence's Bridge. On the left-hand side of the screen, off screen, is the Lytton area. Here we see that expansion moving across the river and up. Incredibly difficult terrain in this area. I've driven some of these back roads. It's spectacular, but wildfire crews will have their challenges, so you will need a ground report. Go to the BC Wildfire website. It's in the description below, and get the first-hand view on what they're facing with this wildfire challenge. We're moving now eastward. This is the White Rock Lake fire. We were looking at eastern expansion yesterday on the accumulated infrared. Now we're looking at the MODIS system for any telltale sign, and yes, there has been movement eastward towards Westwold. It's approaching the valley entrance. I'm also seeing movement north into more forested blocks, so there is the potential for the fire to pick up increased surface area. So if you are east or northeast of this fire, you want to check your access routes and make sure that you have all the information available from the ground reports. We're moving now to the south central interior of BC. We are looking at the fire just north of Christina Lake. There appears to be a lot of activity there in the new infrared, and likewise up to the northwest, northwest of Granby Provincial Park, more activity there as well. So two areas to watch for. The forest conditions in the area have been reported as very dry, and those southwest winds may push these fire perimeters in a northeasterly direction. We've moved west into the Okanagan Valley. This is south of the fire at Okanagan Falls. We're just southeast of Oliver. We can see where infrared started near the Vaso Lake and then went up this river valley and on to forested areas on the mountainside. It appears to have caught wind and moved further north fairly rapidly. It appears to the eastern side of the Inkaneep area, and it is approaching the end of the forested range and looking at maybe some more grasslands and open areas as it makes this progression north on these south winds. When I heard that the fire broke, I wanted to see if I could get a visual on it, and here we are looking at DriveBC's webcams. This is in the Coston area looking to the southeast, and we can see smoke on the horizon over the hillside in the lower Okanagan Valley. Picking up, and it's moving in a north direction. So north is to the left of the screen, south to the right. And even as evening came on, we can still see a lot of haze in the horizon pushing up. There's also smoke coming in from Washington State. This is windy. There's access to webcams on the right-hand side menu bar. I'm looking at an area. It appears to be north of the fire zone. We see these smoke plumes rising and going overhead. Very dramatic, very scary if you're in the area. And looking at another one of the webcams, we see that haze in the background, dark red sky. And a good friend in the Okanagan sent me this picture looking east towards the Okanagan Plateau, and we can see that brown ochre sky as smoke trails flood up. Zooming out and looking at the NASA's firm system of the smoke trails that are moving up into the Okanagan, we can see a lot of that haze is coming from Washington State. And those are also very significant fires and impacted by these southern winds coming up into the Okanagan Valley and into the southern interior. However, around Oliver right now in this cooler air in the evening, 0 kilometers an hour, potentially coming from the east, winds moving in all different directions higher up on the plateaus. And we can see east of Oliver on the right hand side of the screen, winds are coming from the south, whereas on the left hand side or western side, they are coming from the west. In the right-hand side menu on windy, you can select from several different options. We're looking at what I would call air pollution. It's an NO2 meter, and it's showing us a fairly high concentration and buildup right around the lower Arrow Lakes right now. If you scroll down on the right-hand side of windy for more layers, you'll get a second level. We can go to fire intensity. This is looking at where most on the Copernicus system is picking up. If you hit fire indications, we can also see these little flames. Click on one and it'll give you more or less the wattage in an area. That's the heat being generated. So it gives you an idea of where the fire's most intensity is. We've zoomed into the area around Flat Lake. This is west of Highway 97, west of Green Lake. We're looking at the fire intensity, just a random spot showing me it's generating 6 watts. So that's like saying the fire is generating 6 megawatts in a square kilometer. Towards the center of the fire, it looks like it's generating 15 watts. At the south end, a little cooler, about 4 watts, and then to the north, very hot, about 16 watts. And looking at the forecast, gusts tomorrow coming from the south-southwest. As it cools in the evening, it'll start coming from the west, and then Wednesday, later in the day, it looks like potential for some clouds to move in and a wind shift potentially coming from the northwest with gusts later on towards the evening. We're zooming out from the area. This is looking at Green Lake and just some of the proliferation of lakes and waterways that are between the Green Lake area and the fire zone. We also see the infrastructure of Highway 97 and the railroad tracks. Winds are very slight, coming 2 kilometers an hour from the southeast, so favorable for Green Lake at this point in time. However, for the folks up in the Interlakes area, do be aware of that fire down in Young Lake and those south winds potentially blowing it onto the plateau. So that's something to watch for, and check with BC Wildfire for their situation recommendations. We've zoomed out from Flat Lake again, and I just wanted to show you on the NASA's FIRM system some of the satellite imagery as it comes up. Here we're looking at plumes of smoke coming off the southern and eastern flanks of the Flat Lake fire. It's moving in a northwestwards direction. There's a bit of a wind change. It billows and then starts pushing to the northeast. And that probably gave the folks in the Interlakes area a very smoky, hazy day. We're going to jump to the reflectance screens, and these are sometimes fascinating because they actually show points of fire. So if we look at the southwestern flank, we can see an orange glow. That's actual fire, as well as on the eastern flank, approaching Highway 97 in the middle. Now, very dramatic, we see points of fire on the northern flank, southern flank, eastern flank, western flank, and plumes of smoke coming off of that. We can also get an indication of where the burn pattern is, and it's not very detailed. You have to be a bit subjective when you're looking at this, but we can see where the intensity is. And on the northern flank there, that stretch of orange glow is about 2 kilometers long. That's significant. So it was a very busy, very hectic day for many people in British Columbia. A lot of people working to help volunteer and help relocate people that have been displaced by evacuation orders and these outbreaks of fire in Oliver. And be careful out there, especially if you're out and about. Check your access routes. Know what the terrain and vegetation and which way the wind is blowing. Keep your nose to the breeze. Thank you very much for watching. Be safe.